She was just a girl with questions in her eyes, lost in the echoes of a world full of lies. They tried to erase her, to silence her name, but the truth doesn't fade, it still burns like a flame. Can't you hear her crying in the night? Can't you see she's searching for the light? We can't turn away, we can't let this be. If we forget her, then who are we? If we forget her, humanity's lost. A soul left behind is too great a cost. She's more than a whisper, more than a fight. She is the reason we stand for what's right.
But I'm with you, because I've been in communication with Julia for quite some time. It was just on Messenger for a while, and then I've had a few conversations with her, and I'm of the same opinion. It's not changed what I believe happened with Madeleine, and I'm quite staunch on that. However, I'm with you in respect to Julia. I think they should be giving this girl a fair chance, and they're not. And I want to elaborate on that. I really do. And that phone conversation is very interesting that she had with the officer of 11 years on Operation Grange. Talk about milking the cash cow. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that to me was one of the most telling moments in that whole call.
Yeah.
I mean,
what was really interesting was it was very dismissive of her. Now she's intelligent and she's articulate.
Yeah.
And I said to her, "Where'd you learn English?" She said, "I don't know." I thought that was odd. I was thinking, really? She went, "I was taught a little bit." Yeah, sorry, someone's calling me, and it's
that's right.
But when she talks to the officer, and now bear in mind, right? This is Operation Grange is the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, not the kidnap of Madeleine McCann, not the planned abduction of Madeleine McCann, the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. Now, if you've killed her and got rid of the body, well, sure enough, that's a bit of a disappearance in its own right. But she's still shown as a missing person. And I want to go into some stats and facts about missing persons, missing children.
Sure.
Right? Now, if she is still a missing person, it is the police's job, if they've kept this open-ended, which they have, to exhaust all potential lines of inquiry. Julia has given them a potential line of inquiry, right? Julia has given them that.
Yeah.
They are not accepting it, right? Now, interesting thing is, she wanted a DNA test.
Yeah.
Okay, they're going to do a forensic comparison. Now, forensic only means one thing, is evidence report. So there'll be a forensic statement, which could be expensive, but not hugely expensive. It would just be a bit of a pro forma. Then you can get parental DNA comparison done, right, for 90 quid. Right, 90 quid. Now, going even further, right, so Portugal University, that's the university that deals with all policing-related issues. If anyone goes for pre-policing and crime, they go to Portsmouth Uni. So Portsmouth Uni works in conjunction with two forces. I think one was Wiltshire, one was some other shire, right? And they looked into funding for missing persons, right? Now, the minimum spent on a missing person, right, is £1,325 quid. But a realistic, like this medium, a realistic amount of expenditure by the police force on an investigation into a missing person, a missing child, is £2,450. The Metropolitan Police have milked over how many years they've been, £13.2 million pounds, right, that they've taken.
Right. Didn't want to spend 90. We spent 14.2
Now, when you listen to that guy, I can't believe it, 11 years on that inquiry. Wow, that's a third of his policing career spent on a case they've not even got anywhere near control. It didn't come up.
That's the thing, 13 million. Okay. Like, does anybody want to do the quick maths on what percentage £90 is of £13.2 million? Because it seems like they've probably spent more on stationery on the case than £90.
Well, it seems that everyone who's on the inquiry goes out there. And what is interesting, at the time, there was a guy called Andy Redwood, DCI Andy Redwood, right? He now works for the Financial Misconduct Authority. Well, he should use his policing skills in there to look at Operation Grange for their financial misconduct, right? And he didn't last too long. But when he got on there, right, he looked at the evidence and he said, due to the evidence that I've reviewed, bear in mind this is a senior, experienced so-called DCI, and he turned around and said, it is my adjudication, it's his summation of this, that this is a pre-planned abduction. You know, so this clever guy with all this experience is put in there, and he's looked at the evidence and he said straight away, this is a pre-planned abduction, as if he's just reading from the script, this guy, reading from the script.
Sure.
Now, when the detective of 11 years milking this cash cow that is Operation Grange, I can't get my head around that, 11 years. Well, talk about the station cat. I mean, really, my word. It'd be good to know how many trips he's had on the taxpayer to play golf out. And he turned around to us and said, I can assure you, you are not Madeleine McCann. He was really closed and mind made up. Now, listen to it again. It's really, really telling.
No, now, like hard evidence-wise, that there has been no DNA test done. Would you trust that crazy woman that took her on Dr. Phil? Would you trust a single thing that came out of her mouth? I wouldn't.
They have to turn up and deal with it. That's what happens, you know. And if she's turned up, she's not a Fruit Loop. There is trauma in her life, and she's open about that trauma in her life. And if you had come from any sort of abuse, well, there's gonna be trauma in your life, without a doubt. You know. And the other thing is, right, whenever there's a missing person thing, right, you go out there and you have to consider obtaining biometric evidence. We used to do it all the time, right? And as a family liaison officer, which I was, we go in there and we said, can you give us little, say, little Sarah's hairbrush, for example?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it's a boy, don't have hairbrush, gets his toothbrush for you. So we would seize hairbrushes, toothbrushes. We would take DNA from mum, DNA from dad, samples and you know, swabs and everything else. We would take that. Look, whenever years ago, you had to be convicted or cautioned for an offence, a recordable offence, before they took your DNA, right? Now they DNA you straight away without even being charged, convicted, or even no further actions. There is this urgency to get people on the DNA database, and what they say is, we will be searching and comparing samples through the DNA database. They tell you that's what they do. So why are they not doing it for her? I don't get it. I don't understand it, because they know what really, really has happened to Madeleine. That is my opinion.
I think most of you have heard this, but if you haven't, just, you know, you're going to hear it again because, you know, it's content. So, and I think I want to see John's reaction to this, because I think a lot of us were taken aback. Let's go through this. So this is Julia on the phone with the police officer from Operation Grange that John has just explained has been £13+ million into the case to find. They're trying to find Madeleine. Okay, so you know, you'd think that if someone comes along with worldwide news coverage, okay, the whole world has your eyes on you. You think you would do your due diligence.
And it's part of their duty to exhaust all avenues of inquiry. Exhaust.
Yeah. You can't. So let's dive into this, because there's so much that Julia deserves, and she's getting nothing from the powers that be. So let's check this out.
Who is calling?
It's the police.
Okay, police.
I'm a police officer from the Metropolitan Police.
Okay.
And I work on Operation Grange, the Madeleine McCann case.
Okay.
And we actually spoke, my name's Mark, we actually spoke a number of years ago.
Yes, 2022.
Yeah, you rang me when you were in a hospital.
Yes, I remember you.
Oh, good. So I told you back then that you weren't Madeleine McCann, but obviously a lot's happened since then. I'm just ringing because
I honestly feel like he just like clickbaited us there with that bit of information. A lot's changed since then, Julia.
Yeah, I know. But he said, "I told you then. You're not." He's close. He's certain. He knows what's happened to Madeleine McCann. He is that book shut. There is. He's not even open ended. He's leaving no doubt there at all. He's totally closed on that one.
Yeah. This is the thing. Anyway, let's keep going because there's a bit towards the end which is just hideous.
I'm obviously aware you went to Leicester, to Rothley at the anniversary, and you also went to Charing Cross Police Station.
That's true.
Yeah, and they did a intelligence report just to say that you attended, and they took your DNA.
Yes.
And then I know that you rang police again on the...
Yes, because I was worried because no one called me, and I was like,
Yeah, on the 31st of May. So obviously we have been following everything. We know everything that's gone on with you, and we...
I never lied. I never lied. I mean, everything that was said by this fake fraud Fia Johansson from USA wasn't true. Yeah, well, all I'm going to say is what I said back in 2022. You were not Madeleine McCann, okay? I know that's hard to hear, and I know you've been told this by many people, but you have to remember we've worked on this investigation for since 2011. I've worked on this investigation. I know.
Yeah.
But did you get results?
Yeah.
Can you give me a copy?
Of what, sorry?
Of DNA results.
Oh, we haven't sent the DNA. It's not being tested.
Now, keep in mind, Julia brought herself to the UK, okay, and went through all of the travel, the hassle, all of this, and then had her physical DNA taken from her that she believed was going to be put towards ending this journey that she's on, to then be told, we've taken it, but we're not going to bother testing.
We're not going to compare it, exactly. So it's been taken, the time's there to take it, which is quite straightforward. It can go on a database anyway. Now, there's some interesting points here, right? We know everything about you. They've done their digging. Now, what Julia could do, she could put in a subject access request, freedom of information, because there's been an intelligence report that Charing Cross Police have done. They've done what they call a criminal intelligence report on her. Be interesting to see what they've put in that report and if she could get disclosure of that. The other thing I picked up on, we know you've been to Leicester. How does he know she's been to Leicester? So she's come to notice for some reason in Leicester. Now, whether that is because she's overtly put herself out there, or there could be some sort of covert source that has given that information, and she's been picked up, whether it's come through from the border. It
sounded a bit threatening, John, if I'm being honest. It almost sounded like, hey, little girl, we know what you're doing. We can see you. It was it's icky. It's real icky.
Yeah. I think it gets even more threatening. It gets quite a veiled threat there. But what I'm picking up in is that there's, for some reason, they have got some tracking on her. So they know what she's doing. Yeah. And he does say, we know everything about you. But what I would say, I think, freedom of information request to see what the context of that intelligence report, because I've
got a funny feeling Julia's application might get bogged down in bureaucracy, John. Do you know?
Yeah, well, there's enough people that watch this, and there's a lot of keyboard warriors out there. I've had people do work for me that are brilliant at freedom of information. It doesn't necessarily have to be for Julia's benefit. It could be for the whole public's benefit. What was on that intelligence report that was taken the other day when I think she attended, was it in April or something? She was in the UK. And see what information they hold against her. So that might be food for thought. But yeah, it looks like that they're keeping tabs on her anyway. But
that's what I thought. But let's crack on, because there's
Why?
We can't spend public money on something like that when there's no.
But it's not public money. It's money.
That doesn't make any sense, John. If it's not public money, then is this a private? Are we talking to a private security firm here? I thought this was a policeman.
Well, exactly. Look, right. A couple of things I'd say. If he goes on to say about everyone's coming forward. Well, okay. What do you mean by everyone? Give us the exact figure of people that have come forward and claim to be Madeleine McCann. I would say it's probably less than a handful, right? I wouldn't have thought it'd be a lot. So if he's bogged down with people coming forward, then surely they should have an officer deployed to deal with that. But I don't think they are bogged down at all with people. There may have been one or two. Julia's the most prominent. And like you said, after meeting with her, even a conversation, you realise she's not a Fruit Loop.
No. Really, it's like I say, it's almost frustrating how together and articulate she is, because you kind of want to, you kind of want to write off the horrible things in the world, go watch it, because I'm telling you, by the end of that interview with Julia, you'll have your whole, whether you still agree, whether you agree what Julia's saying, whether you disagree, it all of a sudden doesn't matter. It becomes about Julia and her story and her truth, and that's what's important.
Well, the other thing is picking apart what he's saying. That the money is being funded from the Home Office. Each single consecutive Prime Minister is keep allocating money. They're getting, on average, about £300,000 a year, constantly. Sometimes it drops to about 200,000, but on the whole, bang, bang, bang. Now, this pays for dog handlers, PULSA, specialist search officers, and all this other equipment to go out to a country which they have absolutely no jurisdiction, in which they would go out for stints of 7 to 8 days at a time. They've got to be flown out there. Some will go business class because they are working. They're going to be housed. They're going to be given their $110 a day allowance. Boom, 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 boom. They can afford that. Yet they can't afford, and I'm just going by how much these parental DNA tests cost. So we'll just go with the 90 quid. I might be different. It might cost more.
Do you know what? Let's round it up to 100. Let's go crazy, John.
Yeah,
let's go crazy.
Exactly. And to be honest, it's nothing. What is it? It's a negligible amount of the 13.2 million that they've had. So 100 quid. And it can be dealt with. They can deal with it. They can do a comparison and they can put this to bed, but they've not done that. That seems just so weird to me.
Yeah, it all seems a bit weird. And I'm not being funny. If you've got a £3.2 million budget, you can afford anything. There shouldn't be an understaffed area. There shouldn't be anything.
Well, they could send someone in a gold-plated Hummer to go and pick her up with that money, couldn't they?
Yeah, that's only because the solid gold one's getting new rims put on, John. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously. Oh, John. Oh no, he's unfrozen. Right, let's continue with this, because we've had the moment with the public funding. Let's keep going through this.
Okay, I don't understand this, because they told me, okay, so why are you, okay, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Why are you saying without any testing that I am not Madeleine, when I clearly can remember some things because I got flashbacks? And there is a person, and listen to me, please, don't hang up the phone. There is a person, okay, there is a person who claims, I don't believe in this, but he claims he's medium, and I didn't tell anyone about flashbacks that I have besides on one person from police. I didn't tell anyone, and he knows exactly where I was, and I remember being in basements, and I'm not crazy, and you can test me by psychologists, psychiatrists. I had depression. Okay.
See, this is another thing about Julia. She is game She is game for the testing. She is like, polygraph me, okay? DNA me, polygraph me, hook me up. She is not shying away from nothing, and that is just testament to how eager she is for answers.
Yeah. I mean, she clearly is a survivor of abuse. She admits that herself.
Yeah.
There's an immense trauma there.
I just want to address someone in the side chat. I just want to say, you would not be chastised for thinking this, right? Did they not prove it's not Matt? They basically, they did prove it's not Madeleine, didn't they? DNA test didn't match. That's what we were all told, right? That's what we got released, but no one ever
test her.
They didn't test her, and no one ever seen the results of what went on Dr. Phil. And I just want to say now, I can't remember the name of the crazy witch-faced looking woman that took Julia over to America, right? I would not trust that woman with anything, okay, at all. In fact, I could be paraphrasing this, but I'm pretty sure Julia herself said that Dr. Phil in that episode actually sort of started questioning her credibility, but it had to be cut out of the show. So that whole time, the Julia's in safe hands, guys. We're taking her to America, guys. That whole period, we have to veto every single thing from that.
Well, why not just DNA test her? And it's done. It's job done. And then polygraph test. There's something like 99.6% accurate.
Yeah.
They've got a new way of doing it now, which is the Canadian police have been doing it for a long time. The UK police do use polygraph testing when it comes to the rehabilitation and the risk assessment of very dangerous sex offenders. I'm
not being funny, but even in YouTube culture, I mean, the Jeremy Kyle DNA lie detector test days are gone. But just for banter, all across America, they were getting lie detectors in for, friends, couples, all this kind of stuff. And we have seen how accurate it can be.
Even with Jeremy Kyle, the information he was getting was going to destroy families, right? Yeah. Yet he still put it out live on air, and there are legal teams that were prepared to endorse and back it. So they were pretty confident that what gets put out there is near enough the truth, because they knew that there could have been a huge backlash as a result.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if that is rudimentary, well, things have moved on even from there. And the info I got that is pretty smack on now.
Yeah.
So if you combine the two, then you've pretty much got it.
Yeah. I just want to say to everybody at this point, thank you for being here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for showing support to the show, to the channel, and to Julia. Can we please make sure that we are liking, subscribing, and sharing? It really, really helps out. I know you hear me saying this. I'm going to ask nicely because I keep shouting at people during the day show, and I think they're all starting to get a bit upset about it. So can we just please, pretty please, can we like and share the stream and make sure that we are subscribed and all that good stuff?
What I want to say with this one is that it is the detective's job to look at information that goes towards or away from a suspect or whatever, or a situation, right? It's their duty to do that. They are not doing that in this instance. They're not. And bear in mind, this officially is still looking into the disappearance, which is a strangely term. It's not the abduction.
Yeah.
This isn't Operation Grange is not the abduction of Madeleine McCann, which the parents alluded to, and then old Mr. Andy Redwood had said, on a brief look at it, it's definitely an abduction, definitely, pre-planned abduction, blah blah blah. It's a disappearance, right? So they should be looking at exhausting all avenues, and like we keep saying, we keep getting caught in this loop. This is what they're not doing. They are not doing that.
Keep in mind as well, this girl flew herself here. Okay, it was possibly the most cost-effective part of Operation Grange that's presented itself. She's willing to do all the traveling, and all they've got to do is shell out for the.
The other thing, if say, right. We're both dads, right?
Yeah.
So, and your little one goes missing.
Yeah.
And that's it. 13 years in the wilderness, and then all of a sudden, a guy turns up. So it was like one of my sons. He says, "I'm John Wedger's lost son. little
Oh, yeah, I'm
Julia,
testing them
for
all.
example, you'd be saying, right, I want to meet now. I'll get me. Let's sit down.
I'll go one further than you. I would just be pulling random hairs off people, right? That I thought looked like them in the street. Do you see what I'm saying? I completely agree.
So why is Kate not sitting down with her? And she's got the eye fleck, and Julia has got the eye fleck. Sit down with her, smell her, look at her, touch her, whatever. You know,
at the very minimum. At the minimum.
Yeah, and see if that mother-daughter bond is there.
Yeah.
And
also as well, keep in mind, everyone, this is Crime Theory, our weekly show. So if you're hearing John discuss theories and avenues this evening that you've never heard him previously endorse or discuss, that's because it's Crime Theory. We're delving into avenues and all kinds of things. So just
here's one, right?
Right.
So Julia's got long hair. What we should do is pluck some of her hair and test it, see if she's got sedatives in it, right?
Oh, you know, it's not funny. We shouldn't laugh at that. We shouldn't laugh.
But this is going to bring me on to something. I think it was 2023. The police officially said there is no proof whatsoever that Kate or Jerry medicated their children. No proof. So let's not even look at that. Let's not even go there.
Okay, well, let me throw something else at you then. If we're going to look at it this way, that's from the media, which we know is lying to us completely. We've proved that. So that's a red cross against the media. You've got an anonymous witness, right, that has said some pretty incredible things, okay, that at this stage I give more credit to than the media, okay, just to be clear, because the level of hypocrisy in the newspapers, and when you find out the truth, you're left with just this huge, fat, dirty question mark as to why. Why would they want to botch this up so badly? What is the danger in finding Madeleine McCann? Because it seems to me like she's a hot potato that no one even wants to touch.
But why? Right? Why don't they invite Julia in for an ABE interview, achieving best evidence interview, sit her down and get her narrative, and then challenge her narrative, and do it in a recorded, proper, procedural way. Yeah. They're not even going there because they're saying you're not her. Bang.
Yeah.
Because I keep saying they know what happened.
Yeah.
To the real
Just retro. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we went over the sniffer dog stuff. Just so you know, if just in case you're interested in that, after this, go and watch the show from 2 weeks ago. We do go over all that. But sniffer dogs aside, even if so let's say you're of the camp that you believe the sniffer dogs, you believe Maddie's gone from this world. So then you need a reason to be here to watch this, because apparently what John and Julie and this whole thing what we're talking about here is just a madness to you. You have to start asking why they have completely mishandled this woman. Okay, this young girl, Julia. Why is it just if it's not the case, DNA test. Oh, sorry, Julia, this is how it's turned out. Here's all the evidence. Can't deny it. There you go. Case closed.
Well, I was in communication with Julia last night, and I was sending her some people that she should be contacting to sort of get the police to do what she's asking to be done.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm coming from the total opposite mindset as to what she is, but I'm the same as you. I think the girl should be given the right, proper opportunity. This is what our justice system's about, you know, and she should be afforded her chance, and she's not, and that is unfair.
It's ridiculous. It's like, okay, let's look at it from two different points. It's ridiculous for Julia because this is the legal system and all leads should be followed through. And it's ridiculous from the McCann point of view, okay? Because I'm telling you now, if you were ever on the fence about are the McCanns doing something that makes them look guilty, it's their denial, their pushing away, and the way that they have handled Julia. Okay, because I'm telling you right now, Mr. and Mrs. McCann, okay, if my kid was missing, okay, and suddenly a very credible evidence, the markings, all of this stuff, and you this was the one, John. This one here. This one was the one for me, right here. Right. I mean, what? Right? It's mad. Okay. If you seen that as a parent, you'd be like, all right, let's get her in for testing. Okay. Let's get her in for testing. All right, sound. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Is there any more on that police phone call? Because
oh, hell yeah, there is, John.
I'm sure that there's a threat, quite a subtle threat towards the end.
We've managed to be live for 42 minutes and cover 3 minutes of a 10-minute phone call.
I know.
We're like two old ladies and the hairdressers just going.
The curtain twitching.
Okay. Professionalism. Back to the call. Here we go. Yes. We'll go with Emma Tom's quote here. Also, how are we doing, Emma? Nice to see you back. It does stink to high heaven. I refer to it as the fishy stamp. It gets a stamp of fishy approval.
Okay, I had depression, but that is all. And I remember many things. And I don't know, how can you say that I'm not Madeleine without any testing?
Well, okay, so I know the person you talk about. He's a psychic. He's a medium, and we have lots of psychics and mediums contacting us. And there's no truth in what they say. Okay, people have dreams. People are religious. They contact us. We know that you are not Madeleine McCann. Okay, and you're not the first person. I had an American girl who had actually a problem with her eye, and she had thoughts similar to you. It was very similar. She had some memories when she was a child, etc. And she traveled from the USA to London, and we saw her, and we had to tell her the same thing, that she was not Madeleine.
But you got so many phones and you can do the DNA test? Like, I don't understand the reason.
Yeah, if we could stop that just there.
We are happy.
Of course.
Now, he says clearly, we know you are not Madeleine. It's conclusive. There is no movement there at all. Bang. Because they do know. That's my point. They do know, because they know what happened to her. And she's right in what she's saying as well. You know,
yeah, of course.
Give me the chance, and they should be giving her the chances. They could resolve this so simply for everyone's benefit. There's a pride issue here, but also I think that they know they know what happened on that night. And he said we know, so he's talking about the organisation that is, the dairy, the milking factory that is Operation Grange. So.
I just want to throw this out as well to people on the side. You understand that John isn't a guest on this show. John and I run this show together, okay? So when you hear me talking, if some of you don't like how much I talk, there's another 15 billion YouTube channels you're welcome to go and watch, okay? I'm just saying, all right? I like to say things too, all right? And the fact that we're handling this delicate subject this evening with such grace, you should all be giving us a little bit.
But again, when we are at variance and we differ, we discuss this reasonably, and we've done this as well, and I've done this with Julia. We've discussed this reasonably, and although she has come from childhood trauma and she's open about that, she's got a real stable emotional state, and unlike a lot of people that have come from trauma. The reason, the ability to ration, have rationale, and to be balanced when it comes to conflict, she's got a very, very reasonable and balanced emotional state, and she will discuss things without screaming, shouting, and going crazy. So
again, I don't know what I expected on Sunday, if I'm being honest, because you spoke incredibly highly of Julia. And after Sean had chatted with her, he spoke incredibly highly of Julia. And I'm going into this like, this was proved. This was proved with DNA. Do you know what I mean? And how wrong. And we talk on the Daily Show a lot about the passive conditioning of media narrative that people just absorb without really questioning it. And that was one that, I got sucked into that one, man. I bought the official narrative until about 30 minutes into that interview with Julia on Sunday, and I've done a total 180 on the whole thing. Like, it's just, again, I'm not interested in discussing if she is or if she isn't. I'm interested in discussing why she hasn't been given the answers from a case with 13 million spent.
Yeah, this is a matter of fairness, and they're not being fair.
It's not even fair. Fairness almost trivializes the magnitude of this, John. But it does summarize it completely. But the way this guy handles it, and let's continue on through this, because he's only there for one reason, and that's to manipulate Julia. Okay, and it becomes prevalent towards the end here.
We are satisfied, okay, and this is not just me talking. This is the team that work on this investigation. We are happy and satisfied that you are not Madeleine McCann. You are one of many hundreds of people, I'm going to say hundreds, who think they are Madeleine.
But what are you based on? Like, there was no DNA test.
I can't go into the details, okay?
But sorry, I mean, with all respect.
Okay, it's an ongoing investigation. You have had treatment over many years for mental health issues.
Yes, I had, but every single person who would be even abducted would have problem with health. Like,
no, what I'm saying is that unfortunately, having mental health issues is not nice. It's not pleasant.
It's not nice, but I'm fine now.
Yeah, okay. If you're fine, then you need to accept that you.
But you didn't do DNA tests.
Yeah, but you've got to accept that you've got loving parents and family back home.
What are you talking about? Okay.
They are your family, okay? You are not Kate and Jerry's daughter.
But you don't know this because you didn't compare my DNA with them.
Right, I do know from other investigations.
What is the other investigation? You didn't compare DNA.
Like I said, I can't go into detail.
Okay, but you didn't compare DNA, right?
No, and that's why I'm ringing you. I'm ringing you to tell you that we're not going to compare your DNA, so you don't wait for an answer, okay? But you have to accept, and I understand your reaction. I really do.
It's not about my reaction. It's about what I can remember. It's about the person who is medium knows what I remember, and they didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, but I can't do. There's nothing else I can say. I know there's nothing else I can say that will change your mind.
No, it's not about changing my mind. It's about fucking DNA. Sorry for my words, but my parents refused to do DNA. You don't want to compare my DNA, and there are many similarities. My abuser looks like a person from picture 4B, so I don't understand. You got 192,000 pounds for investigation, and you don't want to compare DNA of someone who says.
Not wanting to, okay, we follow set procedures, and it's very hard to explain how investigations work, but we are extremely experienced in this. You are not the first person, you won't be the last person who says they are Madeleine McCann, okay? And we understand your reaction.
Have they bothered testing any of the other people? Since apparently there's a huge long list.
What stood out for me were hundreds of people. Well, exactly how many? Freedom of Information should produce that, and I don't think it is hundreds, but it's probably a few. I don't doubt that. But he clearly states, "I do know. I do know."
I do know you're not her.
Yeah,
I do know that. Okay.
And then he goes on to say, I can't go into details. So there's something that is hidden away from the public. I can't go into it. He's not allowed to go into detail. Right, 192,000, which is probably, I think that's what in 2022 they got awarded. So they're getting on average 200 to 300,000 every single year for the past 13 years.
Yeah.
So it's a huge amount of money.
Yeah. Big shout out to Dr. Becky Spellman in the side chat. Really, really good point. I mean, obviously, we're not going to count the crazy lady that took her to America or Dr. Phil, okay? Because, but I'm excited to hear part two. I really am.
Tell you something about some of these overseas inquiries, right? I'm still confused as to what the UK are doing, British police are doing out in Portugal. I'd like someone to explain that to me, because I don't know. They've got no jurisdiction out there. Portugal's got their own police that are perfectly capable of cracking on. They don't need the the size 10 boot of the Met Police stamped over everything. Now, just
since it's been brought up, John, one second, sorry. Maybe it's because they're pinning it on this Christian guy. Are they?
Yeah.
Because apparently all his charges are looking like they're going to be dropped in the coming weeks. That's a future live stream, I'll tell you that now. But it would be very interesting if it does, John, because it would reek of cover up and distraction and just add more fuel to the fire.
Yeah, there's a lot more to this. Now, I know someone who knows this Christian, and he's informed me that Christian knew the McCanns anyway. They did know them. So maybe they're putting Christian in the spotlight to bully him, to say, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. You know what?
Maybe he drew the short straw from the club. You never know.
Yeah, well, yeah,
these are other theories, ladies and gentlemen. These are other theories.
I'm gonna talk to my source again. I'll pass my source on to a well-known journalist, and they're sort of seeing what they can come up with that way. Because I just generally think that it does need exposing, and it's right. But if we go back to the UK has got the jurisdiction for overseas territories, dependencies. Right now, I knew a guy, a detective, that got sent out to the British Virgin Isles in the Caribbean to investigate a murder. He was out there for nearly 2 years. Now, he said, when I got out there, the police took me to the excuse of a police station they had out there. They said, look, this is a guy who's done it. This is how he did it, and he's actually admitted it. So the murder was solved straight away, but they needed Scotland Yard to go down there and do the bits and pieces.
Okay.
And he said, I just milked it. They knew, the police were there all on board with it, and he ended up staying out there for something like 18 months for a murder that was solved before he even got there. So they just milked it because it was a good life and it was a good jolly out, you know. So there you go. But you know, someone's gone on about remote viewing. Look, there's remote viewers, but I've had guys with dowsing rods, you know, go over maps, and I mean, I will look into anything, which is what the police should be doing. It doesn't mean it has to be a science, because you know, even some of these professional things, it's just an opinion based on someone's experience.
Yeah.
And that's down to the tenacity of the defence or the prosecuting barrister to come up to the validity of these people's claims, you know? And if they're no good, then do it. But what is wrong in giving it a go? There's nothing wrong in giving it a go, and that's what they should be doing. Look, the investigative mind should be like a parachute. It only works when it's open. It's got to be open. This guy's got a very, very closed mindset, and he keeps bringing our mental health in, so it's getting a little bit, you know, we know
honestly, I get vibes from this conversation that 10 minutes before he called Julia, he was dragged into a room and told, if you don't go in there and convince her now, you're donezo. There ain't no bonus this year for you, mate, because it sounds so wrong.
You're not sitting in the Chief Buffalo's chair in the lodge this year.
Right, we've got our 3 minutes. Let's go.
We accept that.
But I was still saying, I mean, it's not about the reaction. It's about that you have no proofs against me, like nothing that would say that I am or I'm not, because you didn't check it, and this is unbelievable.
Right. So there's no facts at all to say you're Madeleine. Okay. There's
no facts that say that I'm not.
There's no evidence. So we go by evidence. There is no evidence to say you're Madeleine. Everything you've said, we have been able to disprove. Okay.
But you don't know what I remember, and you even don't want to know. And what about my abuser?
You've told us before.
No, I never tell. Listen.
We've been able to, no investigation, disprove all the facts. Now,
okay.
I've listened to you, but
I didn't tell. Please, last thing. Can I say last thing, and then you can do whatever you want with whatever. I just want to say that I didn't tell about my flashbacks to anyone, and I started getting them since October 2023.
Yeah, okay. Well,
So no one.
See that right? Okay. I swear to God, I could quite happily go through the screen and slap him right across the face. It's the most condescending, like it's just awful.
The other thing, he says there's no evidence. Okay, but if you take her DNA, then there's tangible evidence. If you spend the 90 quid, the 100 quid, there's then tangible evidence that you can use to support claims against
what
Julia.
we're talking about here is concluding a case file, right? So surely anytime anybody walks in and says, oh, I would like to say I'm this person or confess to this or whatever, they still have to prove it. They still got to go and get the evidence. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm sure they had one or two characters that walked in courthouses saying, oh, I was the second gunman on the grassy knoll. You've still got to prove it. You see what I'm saying?
And that's why they've got a team of detectives. It's not as if they're overstretched and they're inundated. This has been running 13 years. And you know, with $1 million a year being chucked at it or whatever, you know. So there's experience there. The staff is there. I mean, this guy alone, he's been sitting on this for, like I say, it's more than I thought. Nearly half his service. If he does 2 more years, he's spent on that. Oh, come on, get a grip, you know.
We're coming up to the very, very last section of this, which is what I believe was the reason for this entire phone call.
Accepted that. Now,
Right there. Hang on. So listen. Here we go.
You've told us before.
No, I never tell. Listen.
We've been able to, no investigation, disprove all the facts. Now,
okay.
I've listened to you, but
I didn't tell. Please, last thing. Can I say last thing, and then you can do whatever you want with whatever. I just want to say that I didn't tell about my flashbacks to anyone, and I started getting them since October 2023.
Yeah, okay. Well,
so no one knew.
We spoke in 2022, and I told you weren't Madeleine, and you accepted that.
Now, no, I never accepted that. I was still trying to.
You did. I made notes, and you said, okay.
See, what if I turn around to you, John, right, and you're convinced that you're somebody, right? And I turn around and say, John, you're not that person. And you go, okay. Is that you confirming I'm right? Or is that just you?
There's a thing called acquiescence.
Okay.
And that's why when you interview vulnerable, which she is vulnerable because she's got a history of mental health and she's a survivor of abuse.
Thank you for everybody for being here. John will be back. We will continue on with this, but just let us know if you've got any questions. You've been doing really well in the side chat. Big shout out to the mods. Big shout out to Julia. And I think as well, I've been reading just in the sites here what Dr. Becky Spellman has been saying. And I do believe Sunday, Dr. Spellman's going to be with Julia and Sean going through Julia's life story. I am completely gripped on Julia's story. Like, I feel like because I've spoken with her, because I've seen the lives, it is so different to what we were told in the media, the impression we were given in the media. And I feel like all of the images they used in the media, it was almost like they caught her at moments where our body language was really sort of protective of herself and things like this. And that is not who I met on Sunday. I'll tell you that right now. This is a well put together, well articulates really well her whole story. And I can't wait for the next part and all the support to Julia getting the answers that she wants and finding out her truth. Because, and I tell you something else, but the main thing is supporting Julia getting the answers she deserves and questioning exactly why the UK police have handled it this way. I mean, don't get me wrong. If every single person who came out with a story like Julia demanded a flight to the UK and a DNA test and all this, it could snowball out of control, sure. She paid her own way. Like, if they had said to her, you need to pay for your own flight and we're going to charge you 200 quid for the DNA test, she would have turned up with the 200 quid, mate. That's all I'm saying. If it was a budgetary reason, which you said it was, you should have just let her know, man. she would have dealt with it. She's more put together and calm and collected than anybody else that's portrayed anything on this case that I've heard, which is only the one. I mean, I'm not going to spit fire like I've heard a lot of things. It's just the one guy, but he did not represent the whole operation well. So yeah, everyone in the side chat seems to be really. There's even been a few people who have came in at the start saying one thing and who are now have very much softened up on the situation, and it's nice to see. It's nice to see people who. I'm very proud that we don't try and create echo chambers. Obviously, we don't stand for anybody being rude or horrible or nasty. You can be very assertive and direct and constructive with things that wouldn't necessarily be seen as a positive input. Welcome back, John. I was just telling everybody that was MI6 trying to shut you down again.
Really strange, because I went through to my settings because it said no internet. Yeah, I've got full internet, and it's got something about being blocked, websites blocking my connection, which is very odd. Very odd.
Okay, well, listen, I just want to say, if MI5 is listening, John Wedger and I don't really know each other. Okay, we just work together. All right, you don't need to take me out. I'll take the check. All right, I'll take the check and be quiet. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, carry on, John. Carry on.
But yeah. I mean, these things do happen. I can remember when I was in my whistleblowing phase, and my MP made sure everything was recorded and placed into Hansard's, as long as Hansard's is like the parliamentary record keeping, and as well as my statement. And he was under instructions that if one moment I didn't turn up for a meeting or I didn't wake up, then there was a certain solicitor and a certain journalist would put my statement out in the press, and it was all worked out, and it's still kept in Hansard's to this day, my statement, and with the names all in it. So, you know, these things do happen, and you've got to be mindful of them. And I think that this is what's happened with this case. It starts, people involved have got some sort of political sway, and I think it could be damaging, politically damaging, or whatever, to the stability of this country if the full disclosure of who and what is involved in this disappearance case ever got out. You know, very odd. But yeah, no, he's not really treating her nice. You know, he really isn't.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, everybody, Sunday, Dr. Becky Spellman, Julia and Sean for the next part of Julia's story, where I do believe they're going to be diving into things in a little bit more detail of Julia's life. I mean, I think that is the pretense of it all. So make sure you're there. Make sure you like and share and subscribe to this channel as well. Now, what else, John? I mean, it seems to me like, because again, it's the public, it's the internet. People just want an answer, okay? And it's easier to just go, no, this is nonsense. This is nonsense. She needs help. All of this stuff. Well, I'm not being funny. Go and watch Sunday's interview and then come back and say all that. Yeah. Because it's not until you've spent, even in a virtual sense, a little bit of time with Julia, out with the press, the media, that you really start to get to grips with, there is something odd going on here.
Yeah. She's very likable. She's highly intelligent. Oh. She's articulate. It's her second language. Because I said that I'll have someone Polish standing by. She said, "Oh yeah, please, if you could, if ever we was to do anything, you know, just because it's always better to sort of put the point across in your own language." But despite that, she did incredibly well in just using English. And the same, my opinion of what happened to Madeleine hasn't changed. But my opinion of Julia has changed, because I had seen her in the press and things like that. When it came out, I did follow it and thinking, no, she's a bit, but when I spoke to her, it totally changed. I thought, no, she's not mad. She's not mad.
100%. I'll put my hands up and say that's exactly how I felt going into Sunday. Yeah. I really did. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
she's reasonable, and that's what gets me.
She's beyond reasonable, especially when she's put beside a policeman like that, John. She's a pillar of like how somebody should conduct themselves compared to him. And you point, John, it looks like you're looking at a guy off camera who's like threatening you with something.
Oh,
You
no,
keep
no,
sort
no,
of, you
not
keep
at all.
giving the
No,
shifty eyes to the side like this.
no, not at
Listen,
all. No,
okay.
I'm thinking that if I was a parent, because this is what I always do, I put myself in that position of being a parent. Now,
Yeah.
one of my kids never came home one night, and he was young, and I lived on a rough housing estate, and I was just crazy. I was driving around at 70 miles an hour around every street, and every little kid I saw, I screeched and ran up, made sure it wasn't my. I was just beside myself. He did come home, and I went crazy. You know, I really sort of had a go at him. But I was just so pleased that he'd come on, but it just ripped me to pieces, and I was a mess. Had that gone on and on and on, I don't know. I think I would have become an alcoholic. I don't think I would have lived too long. But if someone presented themselves and said, John, we think we might, this guy's coming forward, I'd want to meet them. And I would. I know there are crazy people, and I've met a lot of crazy people, and I get them contact me with some bizarre claims. You can usually tell. I get them to do a paragraph. I said, please, can you put it in a paragraph? And I can pretty much work out, because they'll rant, and it'll be rant. And I think, no, this is a ramblings of someone who really isn't well. There's no rambling with her. There's no ranting with her at all. And if it was me, I'd say, okay, I'll sit down with them. I'll sit down, unless you know for a fact that your child's gone, and then you would dismiss it. You would totally dismiss it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading Dr. Spellman's comments on the slide here. I'm scrolling back through them to try and find one, because I'm pretty sure she said something along the lines of, you know, she's very together. She's very stable. I think it could have been the word that was used. I'm paraphrasing, so please don't quote me as quoting Dr. Spellman there. I'm trying to.
What I do is whenever I'm listening to someone, I write everything. I try and write down everything they say, and then I just go over it and I look at it. And the clue's always there. It's always there. And with this guy, I'm more interested in what he says, really.
Yeah.
And he is so dismissive. He is so shut off. His mind is made up. You're not going to get past this guy. He's like the doorman of a club. It ain't happening. I don't care what you say. You ain't getting in, and that is that. The narrative is that Madeleine has been abducted. Then why are they not interacting with her? I'm at a loss. It doesn't make sense.
Correct. Okay, if the official narrative is that she's missing or disappeared, right? Whatever the frick disappeared means. Okay. Wandered off, is that what they're trying to say? But because if she disappeared, I hate to, I mean, hello, disappearance. I'm just saying, it's just a bit mad. And if there's anything that's going to, I almost feel like Julia is this missing piece of this whole case, and it's either going to be mind blowing regardless of which camp the answer falls into. And for me, it's not even about that answer anymore. It's about Julia's story. I feel like there's the whole Maddie saga, and now I'm on this side quest now, which is Julia's side quest, and it's important because of that phone call. It's important because of how crazy Julia's meant to be. If you look in the media, this woman does a better job, right, than most podcast guests do of putting their story across. Okay, I just want to put that over now.
Yeah, that's the same. She's portrayed as being a nutter, and she isn't.
She's not even a wee bit of a character. She's not even a wee bit eccentric. She's just a very well put together, very intelligent woman who has a story and wants answers. And if we can't all get behind the underdog, right, I don't even know what the point is anymore if we can't get behind the underdog, because both camps can unite in the truth for Julia, because she's come this far. How many people do you know that have done so much of their own research, paid their way, haven't just begged for somebody else to do this or that? She is ready to do what is of asked of her, and she's done it, and she got let down.
See, we've seen this entrenched mindset before. when we look at the murder of Rachel Nickel was a lady that was murdered, I think, in the early 1990s on Wimbledon Common when her young son was with her, and she was butchered to death. And they arrested a guy called Colin Stagg. And what they did was they did a case of absolute adjunct provocateur, and Stagg was a bit of an oddball and had this fixation with sort of like vampire sex and things like that. It was a bit of an occultist or whatever. And they honey trapped him. They got an attractive woman detective. They shoved her into him in the prison while he was on remand and got him to write these real leading letters and got him to sort of, they manufactured what adjunct provocateur is. It's not laid on. A drug dealer is going to sell drugs to anyone. So that's it. If you then make someone who isn't a drug dealer buy drugs, you can buy them. That's adjunct provocateur. You're manufacturing a situation that don't exist. And this is what happened there. They manufactured it and they got him caught up in this mad fantasy and he went along with it. And there were people saying it's not him. It's not him. And in fact, a guy called Robert Napper had actually gone into the police and said, I've murdered, and he murdered a woman called Jacqueline Blissett. He said, I've murdered another woman. And he was saying that it was Rachel Nickel. But they weren't interested because they had their sights stood on Colin Stagg, who later sued them, and it was a wrongful arrest. And there was, I think his name was Bino, it was the chief officer, the SIO, Senior Investigating Officer, said on TV, when Stagg was acquitted, we will never, ever be looking for another man. And basically saying, we know it's him, and it was not him. And we've seen this in quite a few miscarriages of justice, where they get entrenched in it.
Dude, it's been the centerpiece of season 1. That whole narrative for all the cases we covered in season 1. Interesting guy. Somebody in the side chat just mentioned this side-by-side comparison. Yeah, this for me, like if this was, if for some reason there'd been a nuclear war and like society had broke down and we were rebuilding and there wasn't any electricity and you walked in with this photograph, okay, that would be enough proof that is your parent. That is, do you know what I'm saying? If we were brought back a few years, because this image is a madness to me. It's a madness. So yeah.
There was years ago. There was attempts by people in the army to try and pluck hairs from Harry Hewitt from his head, and then try and do the same with Major Hewitt, and then compare them.
Yeah,
but that's why there was always a little team making sure that no one was going to try and remove his whisker hair and things like that, because it could
absolutely, Julia. I think Julia's pointed out that we've missed a little bit of this recording, so we will happily finish that off, Julia. It's the very
this is a bit I'm really interested in. She's right. Yeah.
Thank you. I kept her right with her pictures on Sunday. She's keeping me right with this sound file today. We're a good team here at the Atwood family. We're a good team. Here we go.
Now, I'm going to finish this call. We're not going to speak to you again, okay? If you ring the police again...
Because you... Okay.
Listen to me. One last thing. We will not speak to you again. If you ring the British police or you go to Leicester again, they will contact... Any kind of contact will come back to us, okay? We are Operation Grange. It will come back to us. So it's pointless you making any more attempts to contact the British police.
Why?
And also, if you do go to Leicester again and you do, they are fully aware of you now. They know who you are, and if there's offences called harassment here. If you cause any harassment, you could be arrested. Okay.
Is it blackmail? If I will go there, I will be. Yes, it is blackmail.
No, harassment's when you annoy someone.
I'm saying that you blackmail me now.
No, I'm not blackmailing.
It looks like, because I don't harass anyone.
I've just given you advice. Now, Julia, I'm really sorry to have to ring you like this. I know you don't...
No, because you just didn't check my DNA and you admitted this.
Yeah, and now I need to finish the call.
Okay, so, I will never give up. This is something that I want to tell you.
I know you won't. Okay, but you take care, yeah?
Okay,
take care.
Bye.
Take care, bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me of that, Julia. Because what, John? You will be done for harassment.
Harassment, and and you know, she's right. She hasn't harassed anyone. And if you go to Leicester, it's what the whole town of Leicester, and they know about you. Again, it's just they know about you. Who? It's not the Leicestershire Police dealing with it. It's the Met Police for some bizarre reason. The Moors murders. Who investigated the Moors murders? It was West Yorkshire. Who investigated the Ripper inquiries? Again, it was Yorkshire. You know, one of the what do they call them? There's a name for when it's like 3 counties. Ridings. That's what they call it. So why is this the Met Police? Why have they got this governance? It's got nothing to do with them at all. But it is a threat. You can see it's a threat. If you ring the British Police, you go to Leicester, we will know it's pointless. It is pointless.
But if I just played you that part of the tape, right, and you didn't know who Julia was, would girl wanting answers about her true origin in the McCann case even come to mind with how he was speaking to that, with how he was speaking to Julia? Because it comes across to me like he's talking to one of his like informants or something. Do you know what I mean? Like it's that level of like, hey, I'm just giving you some friendly advice here, if you know what I'm saying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because he knows something she doesn't, and it's a bit like, you know, when you want to go out somewhere as a kid and it's a bit dangerous. You're not going there. Why not, Mum? Just because, right? And he's doing the same. He's not giving her a reason why. He's just saying, you're not doing it, and that's that. I'm not going to tell you why you're not doing it. And like I said earlier, we know you're not Madeleine. He knows something, and he's not telling her. And that is what's getting me. He knows something. He's not even making the effort to explain it to her. He hasn't at any point explained anything to her. All he's done is really reiterate that she is mentally ill.
It's almost like he was just wanting sound bites. Okay. Oh, well, you know, I've got you in 2000 and whenever it was saying okay, so that means, you know, you've admitted to not.
This is where we got cut off, and I want to go on about this thing called acquiescence, because vulnerable people, intimidated, and children will acquiesce. And you're right, she hasn't, by saying okay, agreed to his terms and conditions. She's just a polite person.
She's just acknowledging words.
Acknowledgement. It's right. She's just responding in a polite manner. See, at no point should they be construed as she's fully accepting the terms and conditions. Because she generally is a decent person.
Yeah. She is a really nice, normal girl.
Yeah.
With this absolutely harrowing story, and then the Madeleine McCann harrowing story. Did you see what I'm saying? There's so many segments to Julia.
I think she's been as honest as she knows from her memory and everything else. There's this psychic guy that I think may have convinced her somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
A bit more of an influence than what we know, and the police tend to know of him. So I think if it was me, I'd need to know more about this psychic guy, what he's told her.
Sure.
And maybe her trauma is patching things together, which as fully consolidated, isn't it?
Just to show you, we're in no way discrediting what Julia's saying. We're in no way discrediting the person she's involved with, or at least I'm not John's his own person. I'm not saying anything that he has or he hasn't.
But you will the desk that deals with the incoming calls for these inquiries will get hit with nutters that claim to you know, Elvis Presley's telling them where this is and things like that. They
of course,
that, and they have to.
And again, I guess that's where the problem lies for a lot of these people to get credibility. But I mean, I've had my own experiences with it's mainly the cards, right? The tarots and the oracle cards. They're freaky for me, and it's what you believe in, you know. I'm a hardcore pagan. You're a man of Jesus. You know, But you know what I'm saying? A few hundred years ago, we would have met on the battlefield and knocked lumps out of each other, John.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, depending who was in Parliament, one
Yeah.
of us would have been burned, or or
Yeah,
both of us burned.
one of us, me, mate, I would have been burned. Okay, I would. You know, John, most of my mum's mother's side is Irish, and our whole bloodline was almost wiped off the face of the earth because the women were all burnt for being witches.
Yeah. I did some research into Matthew Hopkins and the witch trials. I forget. I did a podcast with someone, and they were a genuine thing, and it was what they were based on. And it tied in with the ritual abuse, because I do speak to a lot of survivors of ritual abuse, and a lot of this. I mean, some of the things I've never really put it out there, but I've been told that there are manifestations. People have seen giant creatures emerge in the real heart of a ritual that goes on when the blood is let. One fella said that the main wizard or warlock, he turned into this enormous 20-foot beast. Loads of things. I've heard it all, and they say to me, "It's real, John. It's real."
Listen, and this is the thing, John. Right? I can testament that it is real because you've heard about the evil side of it all, right? And how real that is.
Yeah. And when you look at Aleister Crowley, it was him and Churchill that got the Witchcraft Act repealed.
Oh yeah.
So they worked together, Churchill and Crowley. Winston Churchill was massively into the occult, hugely into it, and he used the Crowley-esque type religion to do it. And then there was the infamous case of the cloud over Dunkirk, where all the witches and that got together and they summoned this fog to go out over the beaches of northern France, Dunkirk, when the British troops came in. It's a documented case.
Here's
this spiritual side, and it says we fight not against flesh and blood, the book of Ephesians, but against principalities and wickedness in high places.
Did you just whip out some scripture? Did you just whip out the scripture on my head? Jesus Christ! Oh my God! I felt my ears starting to burn. I was like, ah! You know what I mean?
But it's interesting that it says about wickedness in high places, and I think this is what we're seeing with this case. It's wickedness in high places.
Oh, in every one of these cases. I don't know why I'm so red this evening, everybody. Okay, I look like a recovering alcoholic. I promise, this is not gin; it's just water. But
I think this is really interesting because when I first did this, and my opinion hasn't changed. But when I'm willing to entertain Julia's narrative, and I genuinely think that the British police should be listening to her.
Yeah.
And affording her the right to get her DNA tested, and I really do, and I think that's what they should be doing, and they're not doing it. And I'm with you. When I first heard of it, I think, just another crazy. Not at all. After meeting with her and all that, not at all. And it's and this is what having an open mind and it does for you. You've got to look at both sides. You've got to.
I completely. I'm so confident. If you've not seen the Sunday's episode, go and re-corrupt your brain and spend 10 minutes seeing what the media say about Julia. Re-corrupt yourself, then go and watch last week's episode. And if you've not done a 180 on your impression of Julia, right, I'll be shocked. And if you've not realigned what you think the priorities in her case are, I'll be shocked, because the truth for her is paramount. It really is.
But look how dangerous the media can be. You look at people like Colin Stagg. He wasn't someone you'd instantly adhere to. He was someone that lives on the fringe of society. He had bizarre belief systems, which could be classed as being occultic and vampiric and a bit odd and things like that. So it was easy for the press to denigrate this guy. He went to prison. He must have had a really tough time in prison. And he's just a bit of an oddball. He's probably quite a soft individual, and then to go into this awful world for such a high profile, vile murder must have been. They did the same to poor Stefan Kitschko. They portrayed him as being a pervert, a weirdo. He got battered for 15 years every single day. He survived enough to clear his name, then he died. His mum died the day he got released. I think the next day she died, and then he died shortly afterwards. In effect, they killed him. And that was police corruption. That was closed-mindedness.
Yeah.
And with the media behind them endorsing it as well. And it shows how you can really, barristers do it all the time. Like I keep going on about Michael Mansfield, who I don't like, but that's my opinion of him. He's a genius in what he does. He's good at denigrating someone and getting the whole court to hate them alongside. And it's spin doctory. And we see this all the time, especially with people like Clarence Mitchell in the McCann case, where he has been brought in, aggressive, articulate spin doctors. You've only got to watch this thing that's on Vogue now is these wordsmiths that we get, people like Jordan Peterson. Again, I quite like the guy, but he's got such a monumental grasp of the English language and very much a retentive memory, and he can argue the toss over anything and pretty much pull it off. You've got Ben Shapiro, people like that, and Candace Owens. They're just phenomenally good articulating and advocating. And then that's what wins the day. Now, most of them are good people, but if you've got someone who's not a good person, and then you're up against someone who is a bit odd or is a bit vulnerable, they can potentially really do a lot of damage. And, and really, if you are on the edge, it could push you over the edge. And that poor soul could then top themselves, commit suicide or whatever, or suffer tremendous mental health because the press and these what is Clarence Mitchell, but they're spin doctors, but they bring them in, these PR people, and they're just spiteful. It's nasty.
Yeah, but there seems to be a lot of spite and nastiness echoing through with how Julia's being handled. Okay, it seems to me like for me, I almost I'll be honest, I'm almost at a point where it's not about. I mean, obviously, it's about the Madeleine McCann case, but this Julia's case, Julia's story. There is so much more to this on both sides. If she is, if she isn't, and bringing all of the things that she's gone through, she's seen, she's experienced, she's remembered, she's drawn, her memories, all of it coming back. There's so many ways this could go, and I just want to see Julia satisfied with the answers. And because I'm telling you, if the day ever comes where we get those answers, there is a chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of Julia's story that we don't even know about yet.
I think Julia's gone a long way in exposing flaws within Operation Grange inadvertently. I don't think that was a mission, but she seems to have done it in a real quirk of fate. So good on her. Good on her.
Yeah.
She
That's
holds
it.
herself well.
I think I never know how to say your flipping name. Ciego? Is it Ciego? Ciego? I think it's Ciego. Let's go with Ciego. That's exactly it. And I'm way beyond that now. Like I say, I have to the ADHD and the autism, right, gives me way too many thought processes, outlines for if it was this reason or that reason or whatever. And I think that's what's good about healthy debate and discussion, is having a parameter, staying within those parameters and discussing the possibilities of it. And that is the definition of this, because there is 2 teams here. And there's arguably even 4 teams here. But it doesn't really matter what you think happened to Madeleine. Go and watch Sunday's episode. Join us this Sunday for the second part. And this will slowly but surely become a quest for Julia's answers for you as well.
I think it was a good choice of Sean to go ahead with it. I think it was
yeah, absolutely.
And the viewing figures were excellent. I had a quick look, and Julia, I didn't watch it live because I was elsewhere, but I did see a snippet, and the viewing figures were very, very good. So it shows the public are very interested.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to speak directly to the people who are going to ignore us. okay, who are going to come to this live stream in a couple of days, watch the first 10 minutes, turn it off and start ranting in the comment section, okay, without actually watching Julia's story, just going to get ahead of you and tell you to suck your mum right now, okay, to save me going back to the comment section, because you need to see the story, okay? Don't be getting all judgy McJudgerson without doing your homework, because if you cannot see what the true story is in this, then maybe go back to coloring books. Okay, maybe the nuances of a finer, detailed story is a bit much for you. Okay, this isn't Pixar. Do you know what I'm saying?
Do you know? So I've given Julia the details of the Crime Minister, and I said, you know, you need to write and then maybe put a pressure campaign on that they should be affording her this democratic right, and also it's sound investigative procedure if this is still an official disappearance, abduction, whatever it might be case. If not, then change the narrative. Yeah. Shut the case down and change the narrative and admit what you know. But they're not going to do that. For some reason, they're not going to do that.
Listen, some people in the side chat, I think we maybe make this a whole other live stream, but the possibilities of the McCanns using the disappearance label as a cash funnel, because 13 million, mate. I'm just saying. There's a few Mercedes Benzes that have gone on expenses. I feel John kicking about. That's all I'm saying.
Well, what would be interesting is people who've sadly lost their children to the overzealous care system or whatever, or for whatever reason been divested from their children and then been reunited years later. It'd be interesting to speak to some of them and see what their emotions are when they did meet them, or if there have been any cases of someone that has gone missing but has reappeared years later, and the parents, you know, have accepted it and been reunited. How did they get on? What were their feelings? Would they refuse the opportunity to go and see this, or would they accept it willingly?
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know. I've never been in that situation. I'd like to think that if my child was genuinely abducted, that I would want to meet that person. I think that's what I would like to do.
If you're at a stage where you think your child's been missing for so long they could be dead, I have physically held my child as they died in my arms, okay? The slightest sliver of being able to bring them back, okay, you would act on.
Yes, of
course.
Take
it from me. You would act on.
Yeah, of course.
You've got to think to yourself, if the McCanns had nothing to do with this, if the missing disappearance narrative is the real case, surely at some point they must have crossed their mind that their daughter may not still be alive, and that this could have been a way to bring them back from that. I'm sorry, but
I interviewed a child who made allegations of S abuse, but was lying, right? Yeah. The only time I ever interviewed a kid who openly lied, and that child fell at the first hurdle. Mummy made me say it because Daddy's got a new girlfriend, and it was so clear, it was so obvious, it was painful. Yeah. I've interviewed many kids who have been accused of being lying by defence counsellors, but they haven't. You know, because that's the trait, that's part of the game of our dueling system that we have. There's a word for it. I'll come to it, right? And again, I've been in court where a guy's been wrongfully accused of attempting to murder his own child, wrongfully accused, and it was clear he didn't do it. But other times I've seen people go down who've gone not guilty, but have clearly hurt their children and done terrible things to them. And when they go down, they don't protest, they take it and they go down because they did it. They did it, you know, and they go quietly into the night because they've been found out and they've been caught out. But if you was to be put down for something you hadn't done, you'd go screaming. You wouldn't accept it because it would be wrong. You know, you would be protesting, and you'd want the world to know that you never did this. I've lost your sound there.
It would almost be like your survival instinct kicking in, John. If you're facing 120 years for a crime you never committed, that's full on like I'm going to have a tantrum on the floor to make sure that everyone's staring at me before I tell them how innocent I am. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that level of panic mode, like self-preservation mode.
Yeah, there's a lot of unanswered questions with the parents, their behaviour, but what I'd say, my take-home message is that officer that spoke with Julia, it definitely is telling us that he knows more. One sec.
Yeah, absolutely. The fishiness of that whole conversation, the way that the wording was done, it just raises more questions than it gives answers. And I'm sorry, but I'm embarrassed as somebody who's part of the United Kingdom that a foreign visitor who paid for her own journey here to get DNA test in the largest disappearance person case in the world, had her DNA taken from her and just flung in the bin? Like, it's so beyond.
Where has it gone? Where has it gone? Is it sat in a fridge, or has it actually been binned? And this report from the officers at Charing Cross Police Station, the intelligence report, if anyone could put in a freedom of information and maybe get hold of that would be very, very telling. So there will be there is a place at Scotland Yard that deals with all the subject access requests, and it might be worth someone putting a specific request in for that and see what comes out of it. I think there should be some sort of pressure campaign that the Commissioner of Metropolitan Police does allow Julia to have her DNA taken. And if not, let's have a proper reason. There's no proper reason given. We're just told you're not Madeleine. Well, quantify that, please. There's more to that. Why? Tell us what you mean by that. What are you basing that on?
And see, when you're doing it, don't act like a dick. All right? See, when you're relaying that information, do it in a nice, professional manner. Thank you, Operation Grange. Embarrassing is what it was.
Well, good on her for recording it. Good on her for
recording. Good on her for taking zero pish from the police. Okay, at all. None. Zadanana. None. Love it. Keep it up. Man.
Well, I'm impressed by her and her stoic attitude.
Well, listen, everybody. We have been generous tonight, John. We have given these greedy little viewers almost 2 hours of our life, and I just want to say thank you, John, for once again for giving up your time for us. And I just want to say thank you to all of you in the side chat for being here. We love our Thursday crime theories, okay? And this whole case with Julia is at the center of the channel for this week. And like I say, Sunday night, part 2, make sure you're there. I might have been saying that it's 8 o'clock all night, but I think it's actually 6 o'clock that it starts on Sunday. And why was it Dr. Spellman? Why was he so annoyed at her? Exactly. It was almost like his goddamn job depended on it, that he made sure that he convinced or got the okay that he needed. Just a madness. It's a madness. So big shout out to John. Listen as well, we have got multiple cases that we cover in this series. We've covered loads. Jill Dando, the Dunblane massacre. We've done Michael Barrymore,
but we've also covered ones that aren't known. We've covered the Moira Anderson. We covered murders up in Yorkshire, all over the place.
Yeah.
And what is interesting is that one of the first ones we did, which was on his name Brian Fields. Yeah. Brian Fields, who went away for 2 abductions and 1 child murder. It looks like he could probably be one of the biggest serial killers of children, maybe up to 30 children. And this guy died, and there was indications that he sort of accepted. And I did have an attempt to try and meet him in prison, and the Home Office threatened me with arrest for harassment if I ever wrote to him.
That's right. I remember you telling me about this on the live stream. You wrote 1 letter, did you not?
One letter, yeah. They said if I ever wrote to him again. Yeah, they were.
That's like the guy who outs the local policeman, right? And then gets pulled over for speeding and subsequently does 4 years in prison for doing 32 and a 30. That's what that is, John.
It's loaded, but you know there could be up to 32 missing children that could have been murdered by this guy, and it's been covered up. It's been covered up. Now he's died, and we don't know the truth. Well,
but we know the truth. We know why would the government not want unsolved child deaths to be uncovered, John? Well, we know why, don't we, viewers? We know why.
You know, that letter I got is a similar vibe that we're getting from this guy here. That, you know, don't look no further. Don't poke your nose in anymore. Don't you dare go to Leicester. You're not
What? Honestly, we should have a big day out with Julia in Leicester and just make a big thing about it. Julia's big day out in Leicester. That's what we need to be doing.
Yeah, get it endorsed by Gary Lineker and Walker.
Yeah, we'll have if you've got a polygraph business in Leicester, okay, if you're a psychic medium or you run a DNA clinic, we're coming with Julia. Yeah. We're gonna have a freaking party.
Well, and if you're good at doing subject access requests as well, you know, let's all have a pro Julia day and see where we get.
Well, listen, thank you. Big shout out to Julia in the side chat. Big shout out to Dr. Becky Spellman. Of course, big shout out to Sean, all of the Atwood clan, Ziggy and Jen. We will see you next time. Thank you for being here. Like and share. You're all beautiful, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much, John. And big shout out to Julia as well. Thank you, Julia, for being here for the whole night. Dr. Becky Spellman, everybody, the mods, the regulars, we love you. Peace out. Take it easy.